Hey, thanks everyone for coming here after a nightclub that maybe ends 4 a.m. and now it's 9 a.m. But yeah, today we're going to discuss open science in Asia and Korea, and we have panelists from different places, different countries. So Chuan Peng, who is online, is a faculty member at School of Psychology at Nanjing Normal University in China. He works on cognitive modeling, self-cognition, and meta science, but he also initiated the Chinese Open Science Network. A GRASS network aims to promote open science using both Chinese and English. And he also served as a member of executive committee of Society for the Improvement of Psychological Science. And I have Jinja on my right, who is currently a professor in the Department of Psychology at National Cheng Kung University in Taiwan. He got his PhD from Brown University in 2006 and then did his postdoc at Princeton till 2008. His research focused on neuroimaging methods, especially fMRI, to investigate topics in face object recognition and social neuroscience. He was also involved in founding the servicing of the NCKU MRI Center, and recent year has been keenly promoting open science, open neuroscience in psychology and in southern Taiwan. And I also have Hiromasa, who got his PhD from University of Tokyo, so he's from Japan, and he studies visual motion perception. And during 3 years of postdoc training at Stanford, he initiated a series of projects using diffusion MRI and tractography to study human visual system. And from 2015 to 2021, he continued his research as a researcher and at NICT CNET in Osaka. CNET.
No, sorry, CNET.
CNET, yes. And it's okay. So Hiromasa became a full professor at the National Institute of Physiological Science in Osaka, and he was awarded Early Career Investigator Award by the OHBM in 2022, and now is a council member as well, and he is also participating in open science. And then I finally, last but not least, I have Won Muk from here, from Korea, who is an assistant professor in the Department of Psychology and Brain Science at Dartmouth between 2010 to 2016. And since 2016, she has been an associate professor of biomedical engineering at Songkyung-kwan University. SKKU University in South Korea, and her research interests focused on how the brain represents and processes perceptual and cognitive information, ranging from low-level sensory features to high-level context and prediction. She has also been leading a 17 naturalist perception, action, and cognition dataset project, NetPAC, so that's involved in open data, I think. So today we have I'm Ruchi. I'm a postdoc in Toronto and also part of the Open Science SIG. So we're interested in discussing open science and maybe promoting it in Asia. And this is Xiangzhen from China, who is also part of Open Science SIG, and we will be moderating the session. So I'm going to start with questions, and the panelists will be answering them, and then we will have feel free to just come up if you have any questions. But towards the end of the session, we are expecting to have like a Q&A session for more discussion. So the idea of this session is that I think there are a lot of specific challenges that we're facing in Asia when we're trying to promote open science. And I wonder if like communicating between the Western community that has already been doing it for the past maybe 2 decades could help us here facing these specific challenges. So to start, could you share like what successes you had in open science when you're trying to promote it in your country? So
Oh, okay. I was involved in promoting open science because
I have a colleague who's also in Taiwan, was from psychological science aspect, Chen Shaoqing. We kind of work together, and also several others trying to push or promote. So we try to at least do once a year or twice a year all kinds of activities that trying to keep us, active in this aspect. I'm from neuroscience or neuroimaging side. So from my work, so what I did before was to at least try to download the open data and analyze the data with students, class takers of neuroimaging. And then we have done so far 5 data sets. And also when we publish our papers, we also upload it to Open Neuro. So we have now 3 data sets online. But none of them was was in the scientific data, but we're trying to currently working on it now. And others, like in the summer, like last summer, this summer, we're still working on it. Try to have online workshops, introducing methods, or just like potluck type of sharing, that we have students sharing what they've done and methodologies and etc. It's all free, open to anyone, and it's recorded so people can watch it later. And the whole data set, and because it's there, so we just repeat what we have done, things like that. So this is what I have done.
Well, I think I went back to Japan from the United States at 2015. It's just already maybe about 9 years before. Then at that time, I think that sharing human data was more difficult because that's kind of the general fear, like how much just privacy violation, or maybe IRB people don't know what's the right procedure to approve it because it's just not well standardized. So that moment was more difficult. There's just more conversation, maybe thinking about a rule. Then couple of the years before, maybe joint team belongs to some governmental working group, make a kind of new updated some human study ethics guideline. Then in there, I think the statement about maybe how you just get the informed consent for just sharing the data acquired of human, how you can do it, then this is what shouldn't do it, then it's very complicated document. I think it just become more standardized nowadays. Then I think it becoming more and more possible to use maybe some relatively confirmed maybe protocol for just getting IRB approval, then standardization with anonymization. It's just getting started nowadays. Then I think nowadays, well, my own laboratory doesn't get huge data. It's just a small laboratory. Maybe it's just project data. Some of them are kind of released after some anonymization. I'm not sure it's just broadly useful, but you can just check some of them. And we have some code in the GitHub as well. For just replicating some analysis and just a figure. But in general, Japan, maybe there's kind of some maybe data collection, maybe some public databases kind of starting to get rising more. Because maybe 9 years ago, it's very difficult to do it. But sometimes nowadays, maybe especially maybe clinical neuroimaging, make some consortium, then they're just collecting some data. They're just trying to make it kind of more or less accessible. So I think that things are kind of started to get changing.
All right. Let's see. I joined the Institute for Basic Science and CNIR Center for Neuroscience Imaging Research. So at our center, I'm in Korea. So at the center, we have 3T and 7T scanner, and at the time, 7T scanner was slightly underutilized. So there was a discussion at our center about like what we can do. So something that has an impact and contribute to the field. And as many of you know, that we have some large data set in our field, like the heavily used HCP and UK Biobank. But then we know that there aren't many data sets from other countries, right? So this has been repeatedly pointed out by our community. And we thought that maybe this kind of effort can enhance diversity for this regard. So as Ruchi introduced, I'm involved in this collecting large-scale 7T data set called 7T NetPack, what we call Naturalistic Perception, Action, and Cognition. So our philosophy is a little different from HCCP and UK Biobank. They're collecting a lot of data from a lot of people. So we are collecting a lot of data from a small number of subjects, so repeatedly, but not the same task, but using a variety of tasks. So that's the idea. And I think, as you also know, that establishing this large-scale data set requires a lot of resources. So we have only recently begun this process. So yeah, we are hoping to build this data set, and then we will make it publicly available once we complete the data collection.
Thank you. Champong, would you like to share some of your open science experience in China?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So I think my perspective is a bit more grassroots, or from the perspective of early career researcher, because I started to get involved in open science from 2016 during my PhD. I think at that time because I was trained in psychology, and around that time we have a replication crisis, and so after that a lot of policies start to change, including general policy and method we are using. So I started to like small interest group and discuss how should we face the challenges for the policy changes. Uh, then it becomes to the Chinese Open Science Network, a grassroots network, and it survived after pandemic. And now we have like 31,000 subscribers on our WeChat account, and also to lower the language barrier, because most of the material, learning materials, training materials, and courses or discussions occurred in English. So with colleagues, I published a few papers written in Chinese so that we can bring the ideas to early career researchers, maybe undergrads or mass students training in Chinese. They can already learn something about new open science just using Chinese. I think that's something we have done. So for the Chinese Open Science Network, we organize a lot of online events, including online talks. So we invite speakers, share the experience on open science. Actually, all of you can be a speaker in the future. Uh, we already invited Russell Podrick and like Michael Frank. The other is open tutorial. We invite like postdoc and the senior PhD students to share their experience in uh, how to analyze data, or how to uh, do something in their research. And we also have a journal club. Like we organize almost like every 2 weeks. We discuss literature related to reproducibility and open science. And yeah, we have a group of early career researchers. We organize online events. We also have a yearly hackathon. So we try to bring the idea of hackathon, doing things together, to China, because I think it's a new idea. It's a new way of organizing conference. So that's what we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. So it seems like you're all different. You're all doing different things, promoting open science in your own country, and that's the nice part. And now we're going into the tough part. So, how do researchers in your local community think of open science? And that might be related to questions like, do you face any challenges promoting open science in your country, and maybe also some resistant points?
The reason I mentioned another colleague is because we pretty often during our internal meetings encourage each other. We're like preachers. That you have to have the mindset that if even nobody or very few people are like answering the call, we still do it, and in the spirit of this is good for the long term. Many established faculties, they have many various kind of concerns. I also heard some more during this OHBM, but other than that, we're still working on it. And so this is something that like kind of you're working along. They kind of feeling is always present. Yeah, okay, I'll say it first.
Well, maybe it's not just open science specific. I sometimes found just talking with maybe my colleague or student in Japan, maybe talking about new idea, maybe bridging different community, sometimes there's kind of hesitation. It's just very cultural. I think people have some kind of mental barrier to enjoying this type of new activities, enjoying the conversation. They're just feeling very shy. Then it's just purely culture, nothing just about maybe science or policy. Then I think it's just a kind of people are a little conservative in order to make a kind of social network, maybe join the open science activity, hackathon, or other meetings. So I don't know what to do because it's kind of very general issues. People are just so shy. Maybe we can just slowly broaching pitch with each other. But I think it's important to keep in mind, especially people in the East Asia, they usually don't self-promote. Then they usually don't self-nominate. So when you are just making some maybe committee organization, starting new activity, maybe it's better to be conscious about this aspect. Well, let's just start an open science committee or maybe symposium, maybe hackathon organization. Then you can just pay attention to people who want to self-nominate. I want to do it. Nothing is wrong about it. But usually people in our culture group, maybe I'm just heavily influenced by US, I'm typical, but they don't raise a hand. They're kind of more passive. It doesn't mean they are not interested. So.
Well, I mean, what I'm thinking is also, it resonates very well with what Hiromasa already talked about. So I don't see a lot of like active resistance to open science. The main issue is more like lack of interest, low interest. So it's hard to get people's attention and initiate it, I think. I mean, actually, some projects, government-funded projects already require data sharing or data uploads into public repositories. So yeah, there is that effort. And also, we know many journals already require data sharing, code sharing upon publication, and we are no exception to that. But what I don't see is that a lot of researcher-initiated open science activities in Korea. So I don't know where to start. I mean, this is probably deeply related to what Hiromasa already mentioned. So the grassroots network, open science network that he talked about, maybe that may be a good example. So little by little, probably we could, change our culture to like more open to that kind of small group discussions and those grassroots activities, I think. So also, it'd be great if we could learn from other countries where open science has already been well established about the strategy, how to actually promote more spontaneous open science practices.
Champong?
Yeah. So actually, we have a survey about the researchers in the field recently. So we have asked them like 3 questions. What is your attitude towards, for example, open access, open data, open script? And then we was asked their intention to implement some of these open science practices. And then we was asked what they had actually done, like whether or not they have implemented some open science practices. So our results is that most of them have a very positive attitude towards these open science practices. But then when it comes to intention, then fewer people like intended to, or they have the motivation to implement some of those open science practices in the future. And then even fewer people actually implemented some open science practices. So I think that the problem might be in the, or large part of the problem might lie in the incentive system. Because, yeah, as East Asia culture, we have like a strong collectivism. So something from the center or from the top usually have a stronger influence. If you deviate from this norm set by the top, then you might, at least mentally, you feel that you have great cost. So I think that if the incentive system is still there, we just like reward for publication instead of sharing your data, then fewer people will spend time to organize their data and share their data, and they are less motivated to do so. So I think that might be a big issue.
Thank you for sharing. So it looks like in different, even just within Asia, different countries are facing different challenges, different situations. Sometimes it's you do have people that are interested but are shy, but also you have the community that are not really interested in it. So I wonder if you could be more specific about the challenges, like how do students view it, and or your colleague researchers, and what about also the policymakers, and how do they have different attitudes in your countries as well regarding open science?
Uh, in Taiwan, 2016, there are also like several scandals, academic like fraud, and we also make some policy changes afterwards, like newly recruited faculties. If they want to apply for grants, they have to attend 6 hours of ethical training, and all the incoming students, grad students, uh, RAs have to do that. So it's like a formal thing, and all the dissertation thesis now have to be go to authenticate authenticated. Yeah, those kind of checking for piracy things first. Those are just some changes that just mandate to, and it's been for years. But um, yeah, I resonate with many of the colleagues say. I heard one or two like from recent these past few days. I remember one faculty from from Taiwan also commented like if part of their data was from patients, and in anonymized those patient data. Although I said it should be like NII data should be already anonymized, and also all this personal information should be already omitted in the CSVs. But they say the institute has some things that just like prohibit them from just making any effort to make it public available. So that's something that I heard, and also something that I heard from established scholars. They're still in the idea that they think that they share their data, the code is something like, oh, this is like secret of my lab. This is how I spend so much time. And then if I make it public, people might steal my code, might steal my idea. And those mindsets are still present. Okay, I'll just mention these two.
Well, talking about policy, I don't think it's very different from other country because maybe it's kind of slow process, but maybe from next year, I think among the major funding agencies, a couple of the major funding agencies for asking maybe grant submitter to just make some maybe data management plan. It's not very different from other country in terms of policy, but I think one of the potential policy side is maybe privacy law is relatively strict in Japan. I think it's just as little as the European then, especially regarding clinical data. There's always kind of discussion about what level of the open data is kind of good. Maybe especially just clinical record. I think sometimes just sharing is kind of dangerous or prohibited. Some lawyers just make conservative just recommendation on the IOB sometimes. I remember maybe Tonya White just write a paper talking about maybe some gradation of the different levels of open data access. Maybe some data is just well suited for free open just data. Then someone maybe some restriction, you need some paperwork about data usage, but just still accessible. Or maybe somewhere, maybe some information is more they identify. There's some gradation of that data. Then I think it's very important for maybe talking with people, we should appreciate this kind of gradation because depending on the situation, nature of the data set, maybe we should just accept which just level of the openness is just more higher. I think that's a very important part for talking about this before.
Well, I mean, policy-wise, I mean, Korea, I don't think there's a much of a difference. As I already mentioned, the government actually established the national data repository, and then for some subjects, they already require for us to actually put the data into it. But then, it's more like how whether the people actually actively do it, like at their will. So that is the more of the question, I think. And it would take more time to change people's view about this, I think. But I have some faith in Korea because we are known for a dynamic Korea. So we are very good at accepting new ideas, I think. So in that regard. But then one more thing that I'd like to point out is that not all open data are very well used. So some data sets are heavily used, like HCP and UK Biobank. Almost we are very biased toward these data sets. But many other data sets seem to remain underutilized, actually. So I'm wondering, would it be a good way to improve the general use of open data resources, right? So that could probably motivate people more to share their data and code.
Champong, would you like to share?
Yeah, so because I don't really have a lot of chance to get in touch with decision makers, so my feeling is that similar to the other scholars, the central government also have like a regulation for open data for the basic research. The problem is that there are few people actually do that because lack of incentives. So I strongly agree with that. We need to train students or researchers to uh, uh, like use the data, use the available data. So actually, in a recent practical guide I reading with other researchers from developing countries, we have like four levels. The first level is to using open resources available after open science movement to help you to survive in academia. So you need to learn how to use all these kind of resources there to lower the cost of your research. Yeah, another point is that I think a lot of different, let's say, interested parties involved in open science. Not only like researchers like us, but also we have librarians. They are actually quite strong in pushing the concept of open access. We also have publishers who maybe actively involved, try to influence the policy in different country. For example, when I attend open science related conference at different level, I always noticed that some like representative from publishers are there, so they are also actively engaged in this kind of discussion. And we also have like senior researchers who were already like trained in the old way. I think maybe many of them just don't want change. So our strategy actually is a grassroots level work. So we try to educate and train next generation researchers instead of trying to persuade senior researchers.
Oh, we have someone from the room. Wait.
Yeah, I just have a quick thought to share because speakers were talking about differences in policies within each country or lack of incentives to motivate people. But just thinking that because, for example, people data sets like HCP or Biobank, ABCD have been shared out there for people all over the world to use, wouldn't it be actually beneficial for people in Asia to use those data sets as a contrast, as a validation data set, or whatever, to use it first and then benefit from it? Isn't that sort of like an incentive to motivate them to get to know the good side of open science and naturally cultivate some motivation, intrinsic interest in sharing their own data at some point? Just a quick thought.
Steph, would you want to chime in?
Building actually on that question, because I wanted to ask the same question. But building on that question, because you were also saying that you are already using those data sets, do you see, sometimes you talk about representation in academia, in data sets as well, like how diversity is missing, like you were saying as well. Do you see the differences between those data sets that are collected in the West and the data set that you are producing? Or is that something that is more of a thought process and a thought problem rather than a reality?
Do you want to respond?
Well, I mean, even in Korea, some researchers, many researchers actually, they started using the HCP and UK Biobank. It's very popular, right? But then So one of the things that I realized at OHBM, there are so many presentations using these data sets, right? Almost dominant. And then if we rely on a couple, like small number, I mean, it's a big data set, but small number of specific data sets, I mean, that could really bias the whole field, I think. So that's one other thing. I haven't had a chance yet to actively the comprehensively compare our data set with the UK Biobank or the HCP. But that's the time it will tell later. I mean, if we complete our data set collection, and then a lot of people can use it, then I think the researcher we can discover whether there is actually a difference or a significant difference in that regard, I think. But it takes time. So
Yeah, we have another question.
Yeah, I'm Sung Lee from UNC Chapel Hill, and I just have one opinion about the data, why the sum of the small data set cannot be utilized, because as a person trying to find some data to utilize, sometimes this accessibility is really different. And the one that mostly popularly used, they mostly put some effort on the interface. So they usually can access the data set with a one line of the code, like using the Python module and put some name and that download into the, like a pipeline, just a project folder. So I think putting some effort on that interface, like developing those interface or integrating some common, like a data analysis package or library, might be also a good way to make use of like a more increasing the frequency of usage of that package. It's just my personal opinion.
I'm not sure I'm just going to answer your question, but I kind of thinking about kind of two perspectives. So especially if we are going to share the data at the laboratory level, smaller level, I think there are kind of two barriers. I think the one barrier is kind of documentation. Because data sets like HCP or UK Biobank, they are just generated by large groups. They are just well-funded. They are just dedicated people for talking about maybe folder structure, maybe good documentation, what type of pipeline just coming up together with. It's just massive effort because they can do it because they have people. But let's imagine you are just a PI, just one postdoc and one student. Even though you have a good intention, I think doing same level of documentation is just very difficult. Maybe I think it's a good way to think about the idea, maybe some recommended way to make kind of documentation in order to make it accessible to others, because otherwise I think we do too much effort for both sides. Other perspective is, well, currently, I think open science activity is heavily led by, heavy code writer, people really good at writing the code. But I sometimes find that some documentation, maybe some open science related code, they kind of have lots of assumed knowledge at the level of kind of documentation, because our lab is just trying to just convert everything in bits format, just sticking a couple converter. It's actually not super easy for us because they're just always kind of assume knowledge of folder structure, maybe coding just structure, maybe some installation with this, because of course, because I think people are good at it. People who are reading are good at it. People know about it. So they're kind of assume knowledge. Maybe it's kind of beneficial for guiding small laboratory, maybe asking people who have less code proficiency to just checking some these kind of documentation, maybe how to convert DynCom to bits or how to do it, and in order to make it kind of documentation more clear and clearer. So in that sense, maybe it's more important for inviting people who have kind of less code proficiency to get into discussion because they don't understand. If they don't understand, I think that's actually a problem. So in order to make it more useful.
I would like to maybe follow up on that. So, for example, in BrainHack, there are a lot of projects like this, BITS, NightPipe. They're looking for students or maybe people that don't know the knowledge that well to join their project and maybe help improve their documentation. But I wonder, because you mentioned that it might be better to invite them, and then people here are in generally shy, and so they hesitate in actively participating. So how do you think we could solve, because it's like we want you but we don't know where you are, and there are people like on the side secretly hoping that they see me and invite me, but how do we, like, what do you think is a good way for the international community? Well, this also follow up with our next question, and I'll get back to the question in the room soon. That how do you think the international community could help regarding these challenges?
Yeah, so before we move to
Yes.
next question, I just want to briefly respond to the question
Yes.
about the barriers of using big data. So actually, we invited Corey Horan. The first author who published a hitchhiker's guide to working with large open source data, neural image data sets to open science, Chinese open science network. So I think at that time we asked him a question about what if you do not have like super computer or just a few cluster of computer? How do you deal with this if you don't have hardware? So basically, there's the answer is no. You cannot reuse this data. I personally also encounter barrier when accessing this large scale neural image data set. So now I think NIH they require some like approval from your institute. If your institute is in the list of NIH, then you can access to those data after approval from admin of your institute. The problem is not all the institute in developing countries are on the list of NIH. So that's the problem. And sometimes it's difficult for like researcher, early career researchers, like get approval, like to go through what the process for applying uh, for the institute being leased by NIH. So I think there's also barriers. Yeah, so two barriers about using this data. And also the documentation, I fully agree. So because most of open data are not so well documented, it's really hard to use them. But as I mentioned, I really want to have a new series in our open science network, Chinese open science network, just talking about how to reuse open data, because I think that would be motivate our early career researchers to like to see the value of open science. Yeah, thank you.
And would you like to say something first?
Part of my question was asked by him, as answer I asked by him as in how making better interfaces easier to just easily accessible, like front end might benefit more uses of data sets from Asia. And something else that also I had in mind was the main reason why HCP and like UK Biobank are so attractive is because of the sheer the size of the N, right? Like it's a large number, so you can do a lot of interesting statistical analysis and machine learning, train machine learning models on it, which makes the data sets so hot in OHBM right now. Why? But I've heard I think I've heard China has China is trying to make similar data sets. Like I heard there's like a Chinese color nest cohort, things like that. But I don't know if there's any similar data. Like Dr. Shin mentioned that we have a national repository, but is there like an effort to kind of bundle all that data together into a single data set that's marketable?
I don't think it's not there yet. So as I mentioned, we are just only begun this process. So maybe there may be many trial and errors in the process, I think. The couple things that just came to my mind as I just listening to your question was, right, so UK Biobank and HECP, they are so attractive in many regards. I mean, it's a huge data set, but not just that they are from these couple of countries. It's more like their tasks are set. So we are very shaped by these tasks, but there could be like many different tasks, right? So HECP has some set of the structured tasks, and they have also movie watching. But then the tasks could be much more diverse than that. But then we are very limited by this. And then whenever we talk about cognitive processes and the perceptual processes or affective processes, we are actually limited by kinds of tasks in that data set. I think that's one of the thing that we have to keep in mind. I mean, they are not covering the whole, cognitive processes that we are interested. So that's one thing. But then, as you mentioned, also the previous person who asked the question, there's a reason why the small data sets are underutilized, right? It's much more difficult to use, right? So we need to put more effort into make it more standardized procedure, I think. So he already mentioned about BEAS format. Initially, it's work on a researcher side, but then I think BEAS format those kinds of practices actually change our field, right? So make the data sharing much easier across the people. But then again, it takes time. I mean, to spread this standardized procedures and steps to all other, many different steps of research. I mean, it takes time. So we are in the middle of that process. So that's why we are having all these issues, I think.
And also for like the UK Biobank or HCP, I think some of them are also involved in our OSIG or they're here at OHBM, and it takes a lot of people and resources to maintain, and they are even sometimes struggling with it. So needless to say, with smaller groups and smaller data set and places that doesn't have that many resources. So that kind of comes back to the question, like, for your thoughts about the next step, promoting open science in your country, how do you think the international community could help regarding that? Specifically, I'm thinking about OSIC, like how could we help regarding that, or even to the larger community that are interested in open science now?
Ruchi has raised this question. We had a discussion yesterday as well. I guess we always like to, just by grassroots or, like we're working our own. I guess it's a bit by bit manner. Like we started by doing something. Whenever we start doing something, we just CC you, and then you will be notified. And then when we are whenever like drafting a grant proposal or etc., and we might be able to know, oh, there's a deadline, and then we can think about how to put your SIG badge or name or knowledge, or just in the drafting phase, we can try to see if OHBN or SIG can help, and any kind of support from financial to personnel or others could be of help. I guess we will start by this kind of activities, like bit by bit. Then we have more collaboration experiences, and then we can think about something bigger and bigger. I guess we'll start by this manner.
Well, maybe it's kind of important to share the feeling that there are just two different ways of doing some good science. But one way is, of course, you can already existing resources, like maybe HTTP, UKBank, or ABCD, I don't know, you can just use it. Then you are just project running fast, and people use other data, people can easily replicate, then you can just make some unique contribution, just you can do it. And sometimes asking maybe graduate students stuff from there, because they're just getting first, running a code quickly. Then maybe some findings can be kind of preserving some reproducibility to some degree. But I think it's also important to aware that maybe, especially for early career scientists, they kind of benefit to acquire their own data. Because first, they can be aware about the process about how data is acquired, how just MR work, MEG works, how data can be standardized, how it's hard to acquire data, or what is kind of unique research question you can just put into when you acquire data, how just data can be helpful. Because if we are just downloading the data from outside, then we are kind of too much dependent. I think it's important to just take up value, like maybe acquisition the new data, it's quite important. Then maybe as just one more say, we could just address some research question we couldn't just simply address by just downloading some HP and UK Bank. I think in the end, we are just scientists. And I think scientific question matter. Then that just motivate people. Then it's very important to emphasize there's just value in both ways. Then maybe this will persuade people to get a benefit of downloading data, but they will also share the data, acquire new data.
Well, yeah, I already mentioned about this point many times, but it's more about like changing your thinking, and it takes time. So, for example, throughout your graduate training, if you realize that, oh, it's actually a good thing to share my data and good thing to share my code with other people, and those small experiences actually amount to your view or your attitude toward open science, I think. But then, as I said, we are just beginning this process. So maybe we need a little more patience in this process, I think. Then, as already mentioned, by him, there's a lot of preaching too, that too. And it could be the local community scale preaching or international level preaching, right? So in both ways.
Yes. Chanpeng, would you like to chime in on this?
Yeah. So for me, I think the next step for promoting open science within our community is that we need having disciplinary open science conference, because we already have people from these different fields, even from different sectors, show their interest in open science. So we need to talk about with each other and how to do this together. I think this is it will accelerate this process a bit. For international community, I think then it's very important to support the early career researchers. So for example, if we have students training in abroad, in US, in Europe, or in somewhere, and it would be great to train these early career researchers with the open science practice, and also support them to engage in open science promotion and everything. So because only by doing so we can uh, change the mind of our next generation researchers, and then we can slowly change the research culture. Yeah, I also want to briefly respond to a previous question about whether there's a difference between Westerner and Easterner. I think in the Western media, at least Toh Yakoni previously emphasized the personal responsibility for changing the research culture. Uh, there are also other researchers emphasize that we as researchers need to take the responsibility to change. So I think this is less emphasized in our community. At least what I learned from our training is that you need to maybe obey the rule, obey the normal, follow your advisors, your supervisors, uh, instead of take your responsibility as a researcher to change the research culture. So I think at least in our community, we need to emphasize this more. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So it sounds like there are a lot of efforts that need to be done locally and also internationally, and we also need time to more patience to see the change coming, and there are a lot of cultural aspect to this as well. We have a question in the room.
Yeah, the point about culture is really excellent. Like I moved from Korea to Germany like 10 years ago, and it took me a while for me to realize that I can actually like talk to PIs, whatever I think. Yeah, but so like I'm really glad that I'm like at this point, like very comfortable like sharing my ideas and opinions. I actually wanted to like regarding your question earlier, like what can OSC do for Asian countries? I want to ask the question like from the other side. So I really appreciate you being here, for instance. So I really wonder like, what about the rest of Korean brain mapping society? So I actually was very looking forward to this particular session. So like I heard OHBM was going to be hosted in Korea, and then I knew that it is my first time. It has a reputation for a community that promotes open science a lot. So I would have expected actually like a little more interest in this session, especially. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I'm emphasizing this point too many times. Like, we are in the process. So I mean, so for example, the big data set, so the one that I mentioned. So we are still collecting the data. I mean, once it's done, then I think it can be really shared by the people there. And then, once it's viewed from the Korean community that this is actually a good practice and good thing to do, then I hope that it will promote more of these efforts in the future. So, and also I want to mention that the reason that we can do at our center is that actually we have resources. As I told you, government-funded projects. Institute for Basic Science. That actually support all the infrastructure and resources. That's why, and I think that's one of the missions. I think the institute like us should do this. So that's why we started this.
Yes, please.
Thank you for all good lectures and the opening OHBM in 2024. I'm Authorino languagist and scientist and Sejong Medical Association president. I'm interested about the brain research and MRI research. About 20 or 13 years ago, Dr. Chu Jiang made the 17 MRI systems. At that time, we are best. But this research is slightly stopped. Main problem is world infection, virus, and COVID-19. But still yet, remain the research team continues our work. The main work they need creative idea and vast investment, especially the government supporting. I think that temporarily we became the bossy, such as the ourselves. But I'm very proud our researchers and the scientists. I want to encourage creative work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I also have another question that I have for the panelists today, which is, we have a brain hack before OHBM, and this is something that people will also participate, like around. There are a lot of events like this, and so this year we originally were hoping that we have more Asian attendees, and we did a survey. We have 2 that's not from Europe or North America, and we don't know why. So I'm wondering, do you have any insight in, like, how do people see brain hack? Do people know what brain hack is? What is the main challenges or obstacles that people don't show up or are not interested in this, or they're not aware of this, or should we be promoting it much? Like, what are your thoughts on this? Because there's a lot of conversation that happens during brain hack, like documentation. They could participate, they could collaborate, but we didn't see a lot of attendees or interest from the Asian community.
I'll point 2 things. I've sent one of my students before to the Brain Hack 2017, and she really enjoyed it and shared a lot afterwards. And she already finished her PhD in Belgium, recently. But the point is that for teachers who are always busy, and we only can send our students and to attend. And if they're also we're in the all the country here have reducing populations problem, and students are getting less and less, and then we have to try our best to encourage students to come, to show up. And this is reason 1. And the second reason is in our career stage we have early stage, middle stage, or a different senior stage. So in the early stage, we're all trying to to pass the tenure, and also so busy with all the errands and etc. So we have priorities, different priorities, and so I also did more open science after I more or less feel secured, and also the feeling that people are just feel that they have to do these things first and before they can do that, and this kind of mindset is still present. And I also agree with many of the panelists or the audience feedback. I remember two sentences from myself earlier. One is the advantage of being a teacher or faculty is that you don't feel shy asking questions in Asia countries. And the second thing is we all feel that in Asian people, the more people, the less likely you're going to talk. And we all feel that, at least I share with many Asian students. Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe almost kind of same comments, but this kind of repetition, yes, I think they are very shy, so shy. I don't know how what it's just gonna do sometimes, but in general, because maybe it's not just specific to the hackathon, because let's see some maybe dance party last night. Not so many Japanese students, not so many Korean students, not so many Chinese students in there. That's my view. Maybe I'm very biased, but I think that kind of thing, culture fear to getting into very new social situation. That's very cultural. It's very difficult to just change because I couldn't just enforce, this is the job you must go to the dance party last night, you should do it. I cannot say it, so I didn't do it. But one student goes there, he enjoyed. But well, I think that maybe the point is if people have a prior knowledge that there are some people they already know are there, I think this just mental barrier just goes down. I think it's just very important because I think because the Asian just students so shy, if they assume that I just don't know nobody, then I don't know what to do. I don't know how to speak with people. I think the level of fear just goes up. So maybe I think there may be a good mechanism to just already assign some maybe key student, key postdoc who can be potentially active, and those people can just announce it more. Then if they know those people are there, maybe it's just much easier to attend. So that's my guess.
Well, I mean, there's always this initial, I wouldn't say initial resistance, it's more like initial hesitation, I think. So once it's actually past the critical mass, I think they'll go. But then initially, it might need like a gentle push. I don't know. I mean, as an advisor, I always, I mean, debating that, should I say something? Like, I mean, I don't want to force them, but, volunteerism sometimes, I mean, initially it may not work, and maybe voluntold, I don't know. So there's this like the book that I really like by Dr. Seuss, like Green Eggs and Ham, like try it. And then some people who tried, and if they spread the words, and I think that's going to change it, but gradually, right?
Yeah. Rampong, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yes, I think maybe I just have two more cents. One is that the language barrier. So I think for many graduate students, then especially for East Asia students, they are not so confident about their language skill. So they're shy, and they are not so confident about their English skills. So when it comes to this kind of international like workshop or hackathon, they are just too anxious to participate. The next point maybe is that we are not so familiar with the form of hackathon, at least for most students with a non-engineering background, or from not students not from computational science. So for conference, we used to sit in there and listen to the speaker, right? Instead of actively engage in and like co-work on some project. I think this form itself is new to many of our students or graduate students. So as I mentioned before, we're trying to get people familiar with this form, and we starting to like have a yearly hackathon in China and in person, so that we like involve more students and ask at least they firstly engage in some hackathon using language they are familiar with. Then maybe they slowly they know how it goes, and then they might be less anxious. Yeah, that's my perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're short on time, so do we want to do one more question? Yeah, we could do one more question, and later there's a table talk that we could discuss more at 11:30. And please don't be shy. It's just a small circle here.
Okay.
Not many people. It's not a crowd.
I was gonna talk about this Asians being shy thing right now. So, I mean, I personally just start attending OHBM and going to a brain hack by myself. It might have been a bit easier for me because I am more fluent in English than most Koreans, but I think, first of all, people at BrainHack are very nice people. I can guarantee you that when I first went to my first in-person BrainHack in Glasgow, I did not feel excluded in any manner. Even though I was basically by myself from my own institute in my country, actually, I was instantly I felt like I belonged. So I think it's you can tell when you're telling your students to try going to BrainHack, you can tell them that at least one person can vouch that we are very nice people. And also something else is that I think what's it sorry, I forgot your name. But you mentioned that Asian students are shy and don't try to do things, start doing things by themselves. But also, on the other hand, if the PI or like a superior or or their their senior senpais, if they tell them to you should just go, then they tend to just go, even if I mean maybe pressuring them to go is not the best way, but if they can pass that barrier, there's like no barrier at all if they just tell them to go. So I think it's I think it was really funny because Dr. Shim was like, should I tell my students to go or not? But I think you should just tell them to go. I think most people, I mean, maybe they will be hesitant at first, but if they just try going to OHBM event, brain hacking and other events first, I don't think they'll regret it.
Mm-hmm. So I'd like to thank the panelists today and the comments. Let's give it a round of applause. Thank you for all the comments. Yes. And I also like to slid in an advertisement. So if your student are hesitate, maybe they could try volunteer first. And we already open a recruitment form and they could sign up, and maybe it's easier for them to join as a volunteer. They belong to us right away. So that's there. Thanks everyone. So we have the table talk later at 11:30 if you want to continue with this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.